Hi.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. Good to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you as well.
Thanks. How's your day going?
It's a mess.
Oh, a mess. Great.
Yeah.
I hear ya.
Honesty is key.
Honesty is key. Perfect. Okay, great. Well, hello, everybody. I'm Dustin Nelson. I'm with Indie It Press, joined by Chantal. If you want to introduce yourself. Oh, did you freeze?
And I guess we're going to be talking about a little bit about instructing a course for Indie It Press.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we want to talk, just give people a little bit of a chance to get to know you, let them know what your course is about and what they can expect from it.
Oh, I'll jump right in.
Okay, perfect.
My course that I will be teaching is called The Bones and the Basics. It's basically everything that I wish I had when I was starting out writing my first book. Just when I say the bones and the basics is really just the bones, and it kind of reminds me of this country song. I don't remember who sings it, but I think it's Maureen Morris who sings "The House Won't Fall If the Bones Are Good." So basically, the moral of the story is you want to have those bones. You want to have a quote unquote a template to get started when you're writing, and a lot of the times people are scared to write because they don't even know where to begin. And so that's where I come in. I kind of want to help my writers or help the authors get that foot in the door, learn how to start off with the structure, learn some good tactics to use when you're writing a book, things that I wish I had, like I said, and things that would get you started to really jumpstart your career as a writer.
So what could you give us just a little bit of a taste? Like, what's an example of something that was it really would have changed things for you if you had known it when you started it?
So when I had my first editor, because I had two editors for my first book, when I had my first editor, she literally just gave me, she was like, I don't know if anyone's ever told you this, but there's a general scheme when writing a book. There's, the rising point, the climax, you fall a little bit as you're after the climax to catch the reader's attention, and then you have another downfall. So it's a little bit of a graph, and if anyone used to like math, it goes a little bit and then it zigzags and then it goes all the way up and then drops a little bit and then goes up again and then drops for the conclusion. Had I known that, I could have structured my story a little bit differently, and I had to go back and kind of rewrite the book knowing that. And I wish I had known that before, so I didn't have to go through the grueling process of having two editors, rewriting the book, basically starting from scratch in the beginning. I mean, in the middle, when I was in the thick of it, when I thought I was clearly done and all I had to do was worry about, punctuation and grammar and fixing some sentences. I wish I knew that, so I didn't have to. I basically wrote my book twice, and it was a learning curve for me, but at the same time, I want authors to not have to go through so much trials and tribulations in that part where you're in the thick of it. Getting a story on that paper is one thing. Hi, doggy.
She has major opinions about this.
She knows a good story when she hears it.
She does. Sorry for the interruption.
No problem. I love dogs, so you're lucky. If I didn't like dogs, I would have been like, excuse me.
Get her out of here.
But yeah, I wish I kind of knew those things. And if I had, I would have probably not wasted as much time. But it's good that I had it. As well as Cammie has her course discussing, her mistakes and things that she doesn't want to repeat. Sure, she doesn't want you to repeat. And I think that's I think her course and my course can go hand in hand where, getting those basics and then avoiding those mistakes.
Right. So it's kind of like these are clearly some obvious pitfalls that people can fall into. So even someone who might be more of a seasoned writer, I mean, to have a full manuscript done, you would kind of almost think that those are things that you maybe would have already known or didn't know you didn't know.
And that's a little bit of my fault a little bit, because I just woke up one day and I said, I had been saying I wanted to be an author for so long, and I wasn't doing what I needed to do to be an author. I'm like, it's one of those things where you just keep saying, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this, but you're not making any strides towards that. And I just woke up one day and I said, I'm doing it today. Like, I didn't do any research. I didn't, Google much. I just was like, I'm going to write. And sometimes that happens with us authors. We're just writing and it's flowing from us, and we're not necessarily thinking about all the structures that you need to follow. We're kind of just like, I need to write this story, and it's coming out of me right now, and I'm just going to put it on the page and worry about the rest later.
Right. But yeah, you kind of, yeah, I know what you mean though. Like, it can kind of, I guess it can sort of like flow out of you, but it's almost like dressing up a house with a bad foundation. Like, it's going to settle wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now you're putting all these jewels and like all these amazing things on something that's broken, right? And you kind of have to get that structure, and you can always go back. It's not a bad thing to always go back and kind of fix things, but I felt like I went back and fixed a big part of the story. Had I known what I know now, it would have been different.
Yeah. So, how has that, like, what has that changed in work that you've done next? Like, how much time would you say, so if you went on to another project following those things, how much time do you think that saved you?
Probably saved me months, I'm not even gonna lie. I don't know how long people generally take to write a book. If I sat there and wrote, I would say about 6 months, right?
Yeah.
Every author's different. Some people
that's going to be different for everyone.
Yeah.
Of course.
But that book, I started writing at the end of grad school, and I finished it, I think, the summer after. So
that first one was about a year.
Yeah. And had I known what I known, and then I edited for a long time and kind of was like, I had work and I was editing for like 6 months. And I think I could have saved myself that editing for 6 months, because I was really just reading the story over and over again and knowing something was missing and not knowing what that thing was.
Right.
And while I was editing for that 6 months, I could have saved all that 6 months and just given a nicer manuscript to my editor to edit. Because when the first editor saw my book and said there were so many things that were missing from it, that's when I had to rewrite it, and I could have saved myself that 6 month period. So I would say that it could save you anywhere between 2 months to a year of time and energy. And we know that sometimes as writers, we're just like going, and we could have, if you slow down sometimes, because when you're a new author and you're just like ready to do this, you finally have like put it in, and you're like, I'm just going to do this. You need to know some of those basic standpoints before you even move to that next step. So I would say it could save you a half of your time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that is very good to know. And what's nice too is obviously this is going to be something that can apply to every single type of writing, because no matter what genre you're in or what style of story you're telling, like whether it's an epic or whether it's a memoir or whatever it might be, the structure really is the same across the board, isn't it?
Yeah, and if you think about it, it's like when I told you about the graph, imagine the graph was just flatline the whole way through.
Yeah.
You're not going to have many readers who they're going to start the book the same way they finished it. They're not going to feel any of the change that you're trying to, invoke. They're not going to be interested to keep turning the pages. They're not going to get the message, and they probably won't get to the end of your book. That's just honest. But like you said, it goes for any type of writing. The book that I have for the class or the course that I'm speaking about, it's called The Art of Storytelling. And the man who wrote the book actually wrote it for, I think, articles and newspapers and everything like that. And like you said, it can translate to fiction, can translate to autobiography, it can translate to a memoir or a biography. So storytelling in itself doesn't always even have to be writing. Storytelling could be just as it is, storytelling, anchoring the news, whatever it may be.
No, you're totally right. I have a journalism background. And yeah, so that makes total sense to me, because that structure does exist, and it doesn't even have necessarily anything to do with the length of the type of work you're doing, because I would say that probably relates to even short stories or like a 1,500 word news article even.
Yeah.
It's funny that you were talking about different mediums too, because it makes me think like an album. like should probably have a similar structure too.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's where some of these new artists are failing, because they're just releasing music. They're not painting a picture we used to. We used to paint a picture with it would start off with an intro, and we'd have some, I forgot, we also have an outro, and you have the middle parts, and everything with albums used to follow that same structure. And sometimes I guess new artists are not really familiar with albums anymore. You release music and it just comes out on Spotify or Apple Music, and that's it.
Yeah, no, I know that is interesting because yeah, you're right. Like older, you think of something like an album like "Rumors" by Fleetwood Mac, or you think about "Paranoid" by Black Sabbath, or Pink Floyd. Those are good examples of that. But yeah, now everybody, it's all about the single, and then an album comes out and it's incohesive or it's a little flatline, and it's nice to see that there are some artists that are sort of getting back to that.
Mm-hmm.
Have been a few ones that have come out, like really good ones that have come out recently. So, yeah, that's interesting to think about, and I'm glad you brought it up because it seems like it's not just. I mean, not that a musician isn't a writer, but like it's not just like book authors that could benefit from your course. It sounds like.
Definitely. And now that you kind of say that, I might structure a little bit of that in the course to kind of put more of a storyline with anything, really.
Yeah.
Even when I'm a writer, but when I'm telling my friend a story, like something that happened to me when I went out to the grocery store or something like that, like I kind of build a little suspense with them because people are going to lose interest. If you're just saying, oh, I went outside and then there was a leaf on the ground and then I looked at the leaf and I stepped on the leaf and then I grabbed it, and nobody cares about all that. Right. That's just fluff that no one cares about. But when I'm telling a story, I start off and be like, listen, you'll never guess this. That's already getting them hooked from the beginning. Mm-hmm. And then I'm saying, so I was just sitting there and I decided to go outside and I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, today is so hot. So I went back and like all that extra stuff that you're giving them, you're building up the suspense just like a story would do. And when you finally get to the part that is like exciting, they are like on the phone waiting to figure out what happened to you when you went outside today. And that's kind of what you have to do with everything in your life. Sometimes the mom says, you're building up too much suspense. Let's go. I want to know. I want to know what happened. Cut it all out. I don't need to know the rest of it. I'm like, but mom, the story will not hit the same.
Right. You're like, I'm setting a tone.
You're ruining it. Do you turn the pages of a book and try to figure out the end?
Right. Don't jump to the end, mom. On the music front, Lisa's going, but Beyonce.
Lemonade. She said Lemonade. That's definitely, she painted a picture. I'm a huge fan of Paramore, and their last album.
Yes.
I think it was either their self-titled album, or I think it was After Laughter, which was after their self-titled. She literally had an intro. She had pieces in the middle that it kind of like, she sang like a quick 15-second, 20-second song before leading to the next one. And I felt like that is what we are missing in the industry now with anything. Even books these days, if they're quick, like celebrity books that have a quick following and they go straight to the top bestseller, people are losing that enthusiasm even when writing sometimes because they don't have to really, people are going to read the book regardless.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And it's nice too. I feel like we are getting a little bit back to that more structural storytelling in music too, because I just listened to Demi Lovato's new album, Dancing with the Devil, The Art of Starting Over, and it definitely has that more old school structure. It was really good.
You just said the wrong words, 2 of them.
Oh, what's that?
Demi Lovato. I can go on for about 20 hours. But I won't.
But anybody should check out that album. It's really good. I was impressed.
Yeah.
I never really listened to her that much, but it just, actually the album art caught me. So that was really why I jumped in. And I kind of knew the story behind it. So, yeah, that was a good one.
I don't think I've listened to the full entirety yet, which is saying a lot, but I did watch the documentary. But
yeah. Yeah, it's definitely one you would do a start to finish on it. It's lofty. It's like, I think it's like 19 tracks or something.
Woo!
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I listened to her first like 5 albums, and then I didn't listen to the sixth one, and then I think I'm gonna jump back on it. But
yeah. I recommend. Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot.
So I know you're teaching a course. I know this is not about you, but I would love to.
No, it's okay. What I like about all of our course offerings is that they all do kind of go hand in hand because they're all sort of about different stages in the process. So, like, your course is about the very beginning stage. You know, it's about getting that structure going for your work. My course is about the very end stage, which is when your work is done. Maybe you already have a book coming out. Maybe you already have a publishing deal, and you need some help on the marketing and social media side. So that's what my focus is on. I've worked in PR, social media, and online marketing for most of my career. I used to be a publicist for Dark Horse Comics, and so I very specifically have worked in the publishing space and with independent creatives because that company has kind of a different structure than it does a traditional publisher. All of the rights were completely maintained by independent creators, and so I wasn't just doing all of the heavy lifting myself. A lot of it was about sort of teaching authors because because we were also an independent company, we had a pretty small team.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of my work was actually in teaching people to continue to be able to run with it after my part of the contract was done. So I want to kind of bring those skills to people that are working on, maybe they're done and need a little extra help marketing because their publisher is spread a little too thin on what they're able to offer them, which is really common in the publishing world, that you're going to kind of get bare bones minimum on marketing efforts in-house. So it's really good to have some basic information for your own well-being so that you can continue to run with it after they've met their obligation on it. And it also helps you in joint effort with them. So yeah, that's what I'll be teaching. It's I don't have a terribly creative title for it. It's just mastering self-marketing and social media. So I'll just help people sort of beef up their social media presence, maybe make it a little bit more cohesive, give them some tips and tricks on scheduling, how to keep your content a little varied, how to tell a story, how to grow your audience. So we talk a little bit about the storytelling aspect of it too, and I think a little bit of what you're teaching can go in hand with marketing too, because that's what you're doing as well. You're telling a story of your brand, which for a creator is yourself essentially.
Yeah.
So it's a good way to help do that as well in a more creative sense. So yeah, I like the idea that everything we're offering really does go hand in hand, and a lot of those skills are going to cross over.
Yeah.
So I'm
I think
excited.
that's the most daunting part of being an author, is that marketing standpoint, because you get through this book, you're not 100% sure how to market because we're authors. And
Right.
in our mind, tunnel vision. I wrote the book, I edited the book, I got the cover done. Exactly.
Right.
And then you're like, I'm done. Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
And then you haven't done any of the legwork. You haven't started building your team. You haven't figured out what works best for you. And you don't know what your audience is. And that's why I think a lot of the times figuring out who your audience is, like you said, still doing that storytelling portion really is essential, because you can market to the whole world. And if you're not marketing to the people who your book is for, you're just marketing to nothing. You're just throwing money and energy and time into nothing, because that was one of those things where I learned when I finished my book. Was, Chantal, who's your audience? Your audience is not everyone.
No.
And that's, if you're wasting your money. And I think before this, I had I always dabble in a lot of things. I'm an entrepreneur. So like, I had a small business, and I literally put men and women between the ages of 18 and 80, and I just threw money into Facebook ads, and was just like, people are looking at it, but the people I should be targeting, we're not.
Yeah, you learn a lot when you're getting to a point if you realize that you're getting big reach, but you're not getting good engagement. That tells you that you're just spending money and it's getting put in front of people, but it's not getting put in front of the right people. Mm-hmm. Learning, and that's one thing I want to teach people too, is how to analyze those types of statistics, both on ads and both on your organic traffic, because particularly when you're advertising, your cost per click tells you a lot, and your engagement to reach ratio tells you a lot. Mm-hmm. And so I want to help people with those types of things because you can always be course correcting. And I think for me, a big part of my course too is that I want people to realize that it's not just about marketing a book, it's about marketing your brand, because hopefully there's going to be a lot of different books and you can't just be marketing them all individually. You have to be thinking about how it all fits under the umbrella of your brand as an artist and a person. And that's actually what you're going to be marketing, because it's not going to stop in between releases. You're going to have to be continuing to create content and continuing to engage your audience so that they stay around and keep coming back.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the important things of like the bones and the basics too, because mm-hmm. I think that at the end of it all, or even at the beginning of it all, let me rewind. At the beginning of it all, if you're writing a book and you don't know, like I said, if you don't know where your audience is going, or you don't know where your story is going, or you don't know who this appeals to, you're losing a bulk of your time, your energy, or your marketing scheme right there. So I think that's another important thing that I speak a little bit about in the course. Like you said, all our courses are kind of connected. I think just knowing where you want to go with this, or knowing what kind of audience you're looking for, would be essential, because I write in the young adult, genre. So going to spending a lot of ads or money on anything other than that would kind of not be beneficial. I do know that people read young adult. I still read young adult. I'm 30 years old. So I do know that young adult people outside of that young adult, ratio still read young adult books, but you generally should be appealing to your audience.
Right. Yeah, no, that's a very good point too. And you're figuring out who your audience is isn't something that you wait until you're marketing it. That's something that you need to know before you're writing. So you need to know who you're writing something for. And that goes hand in hand once you reach the marketing phase, and it should be a little easier for you to find and locate your audience if you already have an idea of that. So that's really good advice. And I think it's hard because I think sometimes people don't really think about it that way. I think they go into it and think, well, I'm writing for myself or I'm writing for everyone, and it's a lot more specific in between that.
I think they also get scared to not pigeonhole themselves. So they think that by selecting a audience or selecting a age group, they're pigeonholing themselves, and then that means they cannot touch anyone else. Which, in a sense, it kind of is, but that's the best part about it, because if I'm writing for college age or writing about college in my book, let's say, and I'm over here in a nursing home trying to sell my book, I don't really know how that's going to work. So definitely knowing how that works is important. It's essential. And it's like, that's another mistake that I feel like this is where I'm just going to keep plugging Cami. It's like another mistake that I made while writing the book. And these mistakes are something that is going to help us help others. And as an author, I wish I had someone who told me about the pitfalls and some of the things I didn't know while I was writing, so that I could have been a little bit further ahead in the game, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, as an author, you kind of do want to save time. You just spent a good bulk of the year or your life writing a book, right? And you want to save time somewhere. Not cut corners, but save a little time, because for example, let's say someone who's writing a 3-book series, you're not going to want to spend so much time making mistakes.
Right. You don't have time for it. And what you're saying is good. Of course you don't want to cut corners, but it's about working smart and not working hard.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's coming out of your pocket. So you want to be a little bit smart about what you're doing. Because if we had a traditional publisher, they'd be paying for some of this. Some of these trial and errors. They know the audience. They'll help you find that audience. Like you said, they're not really going to help you all the way through, but they might, give you a little bit of a guidance where to go. And when you're paying out of pocket as an indie author, you want to be a little bit smarter about how you're spending your dollars.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think everything that you're going to be offering is very valuable. I'm excited about it. Well, hello, excuse you. I have a little girl trying to get me to throw her tennis ball. Of course you're sleeping up until I have to do something on the internet.
I think this happened to you last time you had
It did! It happens every time. She's sleeping. If I'm not doing anything, she'll be sleeping. That's how this goes.
But yeah, Lisa's right. She talks about how it's not as romantic as it seems,
Yeah.
Not to discourage anyone, but you have this dream of being an author. You have this dream of being an author, and you don't know all the nuances of doing it. And so some of these things can, like I said, save that time and energy and that money that you otherwise would spend.
Right. I keep making like the house analogy, but it's sort of like, it's like building a house. There is really no choice but to do it right.
Well, you're using the right analogy, because when I thought of the bones, I thought of a house. The structure, that building. If you're going to build a house and you didn't put up the studs, you're not really going to have a house for long.
Well, and if you think about it too, the foundation and the frame for a home is the same no matter what it ends up looking like in the end. Like, once you get to the point where you're picking out the rest of the style and dressing it up, that all of that could be anything. But
yeah.
the structure when it's in frame, it pretty much looks the same across the board.
Preach.
So,
but it's true. It's true.
Yeah. So you can't miss out on that foundational knowledge, because
yeah, and that's why I want to make sure that when I'm helping authors, I'm not telling you how to write your book. I'm not telling you it must be like this. I'm not telling you that you can't change some of the rules a little bit. But just having those fundamentals are the important. Then after you have the fundamentals, you can do whatever you'd like with your story. Just making sure you have those points that are essential to writing your story. After that, you can throw 2 climaxes in there for all I care.
But you got to know the rules before you can break them.
I like it.
Yes.
That's my motto now. We're going to write that at the bottom of my course.
Hey, I love it. I think it's good.
Oh, you're the marketing genius.
I'm big into breaking rules, but yeah, you got to know the rules first before you're breaking them, or you're really going to get yourself in trouble.
Yeah, Lisa or Misty, write this down, because I don't have a pen right now.
Don't worry, I'll remember it.
You gotta know the rules before you break them. I think I got it. Now I'm gonna have it like tattooed on my butt or something.
If you're ever like, you can just hit me up. You can just text me and be like, "Hey, Dustin, what was that one thing you said?" I'll remember it. I say that a lot.
You will. I mean, I'm sure that you have a lot of nuggets of knowledge. So how are you gonna remember these?
I whipped that one out a decent amount, so don't worry.
Okay.
I got you.
That's a usual one. Okay.
Yep, absolutely. Well, did you have anything else that you wanted to add? I don't know that I really have much else to say on the topic.
I think that
have questions in the audience.
Any audience questions? I think also as people start to sign up for the course, I would love to hear what people are wanting, because I can always structure the course. If you're saying, "Oh my goodness, I can't figure out for the life of me how to describe something," I'm going to figure it out and add it to the course, because I want anyone who takes the course to get the most out of it. And so if anyone decides to sign up, I will make sure that I can try. So just send a DM or talk to Lisa or Dustin and just tell me what you're expecting out of the course, what you would like to see in the course. And if you want some one-on-one time, because I know that I wish that I had some of these tactics and some of these classes and some of these courses and even Indie Press when I was writing mine. And I will still be utilizing some of the stuff that I learned from Indie Press, because I need help with marketing and branding.
We all need help with something.
Yeah.
No one's got it all figured out.
Exactly.
We're all here to fill in. Everyone has strengths, everyone has weaknesses, and that's kind of the point of all of this, is we're trying to, like, fill in the gaps anyone feels like they're missing.
Yeah.
They can share their knowledge and fill someone else's gaps. So that's kind of the whole point of it.
Yeah, and I think before we end it, if we are, I think that what authors really need to know is that when it seems daunting, don't quit. Like, one of the things was, I kept saying, I can't write a whole book. That would be impossible. And when I did it, and I saw the pages in my hand once I printed them, it was something that, it's a feeling that you'll never be able to replace. No matter if I sold one book at that time or 1,000 books at that time, it was just a feeling that I can't replicate. So I think that even if you feel like you cannot write and there's no way you could finish a whole book, just keep trying. Honestly, no one's pressuring you. It could take you years to do it, but just the excitement of knowing that you did finish it is the most important part of being an author. And I've always used the quote, "You can't say you are something if you don't work towards it." So
right, yeah, you have to do it. Yeah, and I think that's a very, very important thing, to not quit, because also once you do it once, you know you can do it again.
Exactly.
And it will probably only be better.
Yeah, I mean, I became a better writer for it.
Right.
Even if my first story, which I still think my first story is great, but even if my first story wasn't, I learned so many things writing that first story. And there is no two without one, right? So you can't get to your second story unless you write that first one. Even if it's crap, even if it's the worst thing you've ever read. And odds are it's probably not the worst thing you ever read, because we are our own worst enemies. We're our own critics.
100%.
Yeah, so just getting past that one, there's all after that's two. And I would say that there's so much that I learned from the first one that I can push and use for the second.
Great.
Thank you, Misty. And Lisa, you can put a poll if you'd like. If you would like to put a poll and see what people are looking for in a course, I can also put a poll up too. But I think that would be kind of fun. And even if you put it on your website and just say, what are you looking for in a course? Or what do you want for the future for India Press? I'm sure that we've done that before. But maybe I'm not.
Yeah, we can do a more formal poll in stories, and we can also what we've been doing. We did this with Willow's video. We'll kind of break it up into some different segments so that we can cross-pollinate it both on Instagram and on our Facebook, and then anybody else can have that as well and share it on their own page if they want, and we can just ask for recommendations in the comments too, and then as that comes in, I can compile it for you.
All right, perfect. Because I think there's some things in my mind that I have for the course. I've done much of the curriculum, but there's some things that I'm missing on where I would just like to hear from other people and kind of see what people are looking for.
Yeah, and I think all of our instructors are pretty open to being flexible depending on what our students need, which is nice because it's a little bit of a smaller setup. So I think we're more able to be flexible in that respect too. So that's exciting.
I think that's very exciting. And I think that's the part that I'm gravitating more, is the fact that there's so much that we can add to this course, take away from this course, and that we're kind of doing this for all our authors out there who are lost and are not sure or need help. And we all need, like you said, we're all missing a little something that we need to tweak, and helping each other. And this is what India Press is about, just coming together as a community, figuring things out together, working together, and creating that community feel.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that.
Oh, and Lisa says June 1st, which is accurate. Thank you, Lisa.
And we'll put that in the description too, and let people know where the registration link is as well. Perfect. So we will make sure everyone knows.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much for doing this.
No problem. Thank you for interviewing me.
All right, my pleasure. It's always my
executive.
All right, thanks for watching, everybody. Thank you, Chantal.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, goodbye.
Bye.